As I mentioned earlier, frame number 14 did not make the cut. It was 4 inches too narrow, and it was off by 8 degrees. I went back to the big drawing pad there on the contractor's paper and actually measured the angle. This line here is where it's actually going to need to be cut eventually, and then it needs to be narrowed by that to actually fit the angle. That tapers off. I'm going to remeasure that after this giant gluing is done there. Can't see it, but there is at the bottom, there is a 4-inch insert right there. And then it's actually a trapezoidal piece. I think it's 3 5/8 at the top, roughly. And then that's the how much it needed to expand. And then you can see through the clamp here, I made these brace pieces, cut completely through it, put that insert in, and that's only 1 piece of plywood wide. Then I cut with my skill saw there. I lowered the blade so it was only cutting 5 mils, and I cut that on the outer pieces, and I tried to cut down 10 mils. That did not work. It cut like 6-7 mils down, and so I had to get the belt sander. Actually, that's what I just videoed, the belt sander. That's not the skill saw. And I sanded it down to 10 mils on this side. It's 5 mils on the back side. And then there's another piece that looks similar to this one, but much smaller. No, there's another trapezoidal piece, sorry. Glued it down there 2 days ago, or 2 days ago I glued that in there. Trapezoidal piece. As you can see, I've used a lot of glue because there are gaps in there. As you can see right here, there's a good gap, and I wanted to fill those gaps in with glue. And then I was trying to replicate this clamping here because I wanted the surface area of the clamp, and that's where the other clamp broke. So this little guy had to pick up the slack there, getting that corner down, and then both corners flush, because these 3 outer pieces are almost identical, and they'll cover that whole span of where the union is between the 2 halves now of the frame. And then what we'll do is we'll get that back inside, get it on the contractor's paper, and remeasure everything, and frame 14 will have its rebirth and be usable yet again. So I managed to salvage that one, and then in the pile of wood there on the bench is the resurrected frame 18, and that was done, well, all this is scrap wood, but that secondary scrap, because first generations scrap wood to build this, and then that's secondary scrap. That's scrap from scrap. So being super Scottish with this build, but things are going really well, and payday's coming up, so I'll be able to get some more plywood, and I will be sure to post the expenses on there so people have an idea how much money I'm spending on this thing, in case somebody else gets industrious and wants to build a boat out of 5 mil plywood. Hey everybody, haven't filmed in a bit. I have been working on fixing frame number 14, as 14 wasn't that far off. It was just about 4 inches too narrow and about 8 degrees off in angle. And I have kind of a funny story in that, as you can see, as I was tightening everything down, my clamp cracked right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this apart, and if I struggle with this too much, I'm going to actually stop filming and come back to it when I look more successful and actually know what look like I know what I'm doing. But I was just going to back these out, and apparently that is not how you get these apart. Looks like I'm going to have to pull this piece here. It's got little dimples going into the wood. I was trying to remember where I got these. I've had these since the early 90s. I think they came with I bought a forge and got an anvil and a whole bunch of coal, high sulfur coal for blacksmithing, and did a little bit of bad blacksmithing. I have some training as a blacksmith. Anyway, I don't have the patience for it. Surprise! And so I ended up selling all that stuff. I kept the lathe. I got a lathe with it. It was the coolest lathe. It had been converted over to electricity. Originally, it was a double treadle lathe. Patent date on it was 1887. Cool as heck. Moved down here to Arizona. It actually fell out of the truck. I was on my way to a job site. I was only a block away. I dropped off what I needed to at the job site and came back, and it was gone. I was gone maybe 45 minutes. But anyway, that's what happened. That's where these clamps came from. And I just snapped one. I was tightening it down, and you hear something break, and you're like, did I just break the frame? And I didn't. And I was like, oh, it's my clamp. And so I was like, oh, it's a crack. I can fix that. No big deal. And the glue I have, I don't know if you caught it in the videos. I'm not going to advertise. I don't get paid to advertise. But that glue, I've noticed, I use it. Other boat builders use it. It's outstanding. It's specifically designed to be waterproof for boats. And this stuff is amazing. Once I glue this, it'll actually be more rigid than the surrounding wood. So I'm going to go ahead and take this apart and take it completely apart. I'm going to complete the crack in the wood so I can get a good fill of glue in here. Then I'm going to clamp the clamp, ironically, and put it all back together. But I think, because I am stuck right now, I'm going to quit filming this and then do something magic behind the camera, and then we'll catch up when I look like I know what I'm doing. Thanks for watching. There you go. One frame initially assembled. Frame number one, ironically, after having fumbled my way through the first, 8? Anyway, that's what they look like when you do them, and I highly recommend that you build your keel, as all the smart guys that do this recommend. You do your keel, then your transom, then you sit down with a big piece of paper or a framing table or something cool like that. You figure out your orientation of all your frames and their relationship to each other, because that's the most important thing. Lay them all out as I did on the big piece of paper, and we'll go back to that and I'll show you how frames 18, 14, and 15 didn't survive. Basically, I laid the frames out, or built them, and didn't have their relationship to each other, and that's how they didn't work out. And the others I had to modify a little bit, somewhat. Some of the frames did actually make it by some miracle, honestly. And then, but anyway, and then here I'm actually using the transom to orient the frames on, and then because I'm using the transom itself as my framing jig, then these frames, at least 1 through 12, will all be based off of this as we come forward on the boat, and then they'll all line up with each other. 1 through 13 actually are the easy ones. Then the challenging ones get into the bow, and that's where, don't start at the bow. Just don't start at the bow. Start at the rear. Learn how to do frames, because they're basically just modifications of the transom. And then as you come forward, you'll get more skill and understanding. And then you get up toward the bow, and you got to bring your taper in, and you'll understand the orientation of your two, because you'll have the lower hull, and then the beam, or not the beam, the side hull here, and then those will have to taper inward and then conjoin when you come to the bow. And that's the challenging part, is bringing those together in a uniform manner. And then you have to have symmetry between the port side and then the this is be the starboard, and then the port. And then as you come forward, and you got to keep the symmetry going as well. And that was one of the things that was off as I was measuring back and forth when I was laying these out. I actually took each of the frames inside, and I was laying them out, and that was one of the things that was off a little bit on each. It wasn't too terrible. They were like a ½ inch off from side to side, and I realized that's not monumental. But my ego gets in the way, and it's like, oh, people, I'm a perfectionist, and that's another word for ego. Okay, so anyway, told you I was going to show what assembling a frame looks like, and there you have it. That is 2 layers glued together, and now we get to let that dry, and probably later this evening put another one on there. I'm not going to show a lot of this because it's boring. The old expression is, as exciting as watching paint dry. Well, this is watching glue dry. But anyway, I'll bring you along for more bits of this, and as we get going, and hopefully pretty quick here, we'll start putting a boat together.